And that little peep, if you heard it, signifies the start of another edition of Live Stream Insiders. 46 episodes we've been going for, and this is for the week ending the 14th of August, or maybe it's the week beginning, whatever takes your fancy. This is when we are going live with this particular episode of Live Stream Insiders. I say we, it's me, Peter Stewart, and also with my co-host Krishna Day. So together we bring you the very latest news about the whole world of live streaming. The new apps, the changes to the old apps, some of the old apps which maybe have died, and also some tips, some techniques, some tricks, and also some fantastic user case studies so you can hit the ground running the next time you do your live stream.
And you know what, Peter? We're coming up for our first anniversary very, very soon. So we'll have to put our thinking caps on about what we do for that episode. But throughout the whole of the last year, while we've been live streaming together, our goal has really been about bringing you the latest tips, tools, technology, and case study to actually help you be successful with live streaming. Now, one of the platforms that we're going to be talking about today, a little later on, is Periscope. We're also going to be touching on the story of Blab. But one of the things that I got to know Peter through was actually through Periscope, because he did an amazing series of live streams with tips and tools and ideas. He actually has authored the first ever book on Periscope. In fact, he's written more on Periscope than the Periscope team have, and they actually said that to him. And if you don't know Peter's other work, he actually trains journalists, he trains people in the media. In fact, that's what he's off doing this week in the course of his normal job. He's also the author of a number of books. And one of the things that always attracted me to his live streams on Periscope was the fact that he had a very specific model. His specific model was 11 minutes. And I was really intrigued about that because of the fact he's coming from a publishing background. He knows and understands traditional media. And we actually have adopted some of those ideas in our own shows together, and we're going to continue to adapt that. But it did get me thinking about how much energy, how much content we actually are providing, but what does that mean to data? Now, I don't know about you, Peter, but when I'm live streaming from my mobile devices, I typically am either from a mobile device that has got kind of a contract that it's got unlimited data, or I tether to that, or I'm using Wi-Fi, and I have a mobile broadband that I actually take around with me. In fact, I've got two different ones for different countries. So whenever I'm at events, I take my own mobile broadband with me. But what about if we start to live stream ourselves in terms of off our phone? Because not everybody has got that situation. And Peter and I are in a community where we're connecting, and we attended a conference together all about mobile journalism. And there's one particular person that we both know who actually was starting to say about how much data it was demanding for him. And actually he was, if I remember rightly, he's live streaming in Germany. So I decided to do a little test. And we talked about this in briefly last episode. And Peter asked me any questions you have, but I will actually just have a precursor to this, is that do the tests yourself. Because I tested with one specific phone, so I used an iPhone 5S just for consistency. I also tested with a couple of different apps. I got slightly different results with those different apps, and I haven't yet done the tests with an Android. But I wonder if you can guess what the impact was if you live stream as a broadcaster using Periscope, if you live stream as a broadcaster using your Facebook profile, and if you live stream as a broadcaster with your Facebook page, because they were dramatically different. Okay. So what were your thoughts, Peter?
Well, so I'll tell you what. Let me kind of interview you a little bit and find out some of the results that you came across. So you're using Facebook, you're using Periscope as well. You're broadcasting and you're viewing as well. So
can I just say I did a Facebook profile and a Facebook page, so they were separate.
Right. Okay. So, well, that sounds interesting as well. I wonder why did you do that? Why did you think there might be a discrepancy between those two?
Because if you actually experiment with both of those platforms, so both of those different ways of live streaming with Facebook, on your Facebook profile, you get the option to download the recording to your phone. And you don't get that. Certainly, I don't get that at the minute. Now, these might change over time, but on a Facebook page, I've not been getting that option. And therefore I anticipated, because it then says, do I want to upload it? And so I anticipated it might be different on my profile versus my page. Whereas at the end of the live stream, when I've been completing it on a page, it then is this, it's gone up immediately. It's been public. It's not been, I've not had any levels of privacy on it. And so I didn't have to do anything specific to upload it. It's been there immediately, and it was different from my profile.
Right. Okay. So let's do things in kind of chronological order then. Let's look at Periscope first of all, which also gives you the opportunity to save your broadcast to your phone as well.
Yes, it does. And the thing that was interesting with Periscope is that you don't have to push it up to Periscope. It's already there. You can make a decision to, as you know, delete it or not make it available to people to watch afterwards if you wish to do so. It's no longer that 24 hours. And what I did for consistency is I did a 2-minute test, and I did those tests several times over. And so this is an average of those tests. And so over the 2 minutes, it was 11.53 megabytes, which equates to 5.765 megabytes per minute for a live stream on Periscope. And that accounted for me doing the live stream, that the content was available there for people to watch. And I also, for consistently, downloaded that video to my device.
Okay, so that's Periscope. Now let's turn to the Facebook app and the Facebook profile.
So my Facebook profile was dramatically different. It actually was 32.57 megabytes. Remember I said it was 11.53 for Periscope. 32.57, 3 times as much, which equates to 16.285 megabytes per minute. And I think that my conclusion is it's about the fact that you download it and then you're required to actually then upload it. So that's, I think, why one of the reasons it was so different.
Okay, right. So that's the profile. What about the page? Was there any significant differences you thought there might be?
So I did the Facebook page through the Pages app. And in that particular case, I actually got very similar numbers to Periscope, and it was 10.67 megabytes. Remember, Periscope was 11.53, so that equates to 5.335 per minute. So it was interesting, dramatically different from your Facebook profile.
Okay, so we're looking at all the data which is being used when you are broadcasting on Facebook Live, and 2 different kind of pages there, and also on Periscope. What about if you're watching live streams rather than actually broadcasting them? You're downloading, if you like, rather than uploading.
I found that very difficult to actually do as an isolated test on my mobile device for Facebook, and the reason for that is as soon as I open up the app and I'm on a page or a profile, it's almost automatically downloading it. So I haven't managed to isolate just one live stream on a page or a profile at this point in time. I did manage to do it in terms of on Periscope, and that equated to 5.2 megabytes per minute. So it was very similar to actually what you have in terms of actually live streaming it. So if anybody finds out a way to be able to isolate a Facebook live stream on a profile and a page and measure that, I'd be really interested to know what the results are.
So live streaming to your profile takes up about 3 times as much, whether you're watching or whether you're broadcasting.
Absolutely. And that's, as I said, I'd encourage you all to do your own tests. But when I tested with different apps, because I wanted to use apps where I could isolate uploads and downloads, and I had everything turned to Wi-Fi. I had notifications turned off. So I was trying to make this as, kind of a scientific experiment as I could, and kind of really try to isolate everything and doing the tests on the same time within the certain parameters from the same location, all those other things. And therefore, when I tested with different tools to measure the data requirements, I actually got the same proportions. So even if your numbers were different, the proportions I managed to replicate using different metering apps were the same.
So finally, as we'd say in the broadcasting biz, what is your upsum?
Do as you and I do, I think is the answer. Use, if you have it, unlimited data. Use Wi-Fi. And the other thing I would also recommend is just be aware, have something that monitors that. I've got 3 teenage daughters. We've got certain things in place with their data contracts to make sure we understand how much they're watching. They're seeing a lot more content in terms of not just on those live stream platforms, but many other platforms too. And I think the other thing is, it actually reminded me as a broadcaster, one of the things that we started off talking about in terms of you had a very specific approach to your shows, and it actually made a lot of sense because, as you also say, I'll let you say it because you say it far better than I do, in terms of what do you respect?
We respect your minutes, we respect your megs as well, yes. So my Periscope shows were never more than 11 minutes, so you could always put aside, say, 11 minutes to watch, and you always knew how long it was going to be before you started off. I mean, that's another kind of psychological thing as well, that, you can put aside 10 minutes essentially, perhaps when you're making the sandwiches or you're getting ready for work or before you go to bed or something like that. With most other, in fact, I've never seen anyone else do this to a regular extent. Just having them open-ended means that, yeah, people may pile in, but also they may leave pretty soon if they don't know when it's going to end. But if you say, you know what, I've only got 5 minutes to go, they may actually stick with you. Talking about which, we've got 18 minutes because our regular weekly shows here on live stream Insiders are only 30 minutes. Krishna, one more from you. What's that link where you've broken down all of those stats for people to go to and to read and perhaps try out their own tests?
Yeah, thank you for that. We'll actually put it all in the show notes on the Storify link for the show notes, and you'll find it over at Krishna.me, which is on my site, so you can analyze it. But I'm really interested to see what other people find with their results. There's good reasons to stream for your page or a profile on Facebook, but I think just doing those kind of tests makes people a little bit more aware of what the impact is if they have to pay for it themselves.
Okay, we're going to be talking about Blab, RIP, and also as in the kind of yin and yang way, as one platform dies, another one kind of rises from the ashes. We got some hot breaking news about live on YouTube coming, because there was a bit of a soft launch in London yesterday. So I'll tell you a bit more about that in a few moments' time. So let's have a quick look at some user case studies. Now, some of these companies we've looked at before, so let's just run through these which have been highlighted by campaignasia.com. First of all, they have been talking about McDonald's and how they used Facebook Live for National Hamburger Day. They did an hour-long broadcast and they actually hired an improvisation comedian to play a character who painted the Big Mac and the Quarter Pounder, and also did a bit of ad-libbing around that while he was broadcasting and while he was acting. And then those paintings at the end of the broadcast went on to eBay, with 100% of the proceeds going to the Ronald McDonald House. No actual stats there about how many people watched, but they say that 80% of the viewers that did so, they thought the show was either positive or neutral. So not a great amount of engagement with that. Dunkin' Donuts went on a National Donut Day. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, National Hamburger Day, National Donut Day, for those two big American corporations. I don't think we have those this side of the pond. Dunkin' Donuts invited fans inside its top secret test kitchen to watch how cake donuts are made. And this is really interesting because of what we've just been talking about. This article saying that fortunately for viewers, the process only takes 12 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. So those donuts were sizzling in the fryer, and then they were doused in icing, and then it gave the opportunity to talk about the various locations, and then they gave away free donuts with every drink purchase. So there's a nice call to action at the end of that. But of course, the viewers were getting something out of it by getting free donuts with every drink that they got. Popeyes, it's a bit of a trend developing here. Popeyes, yes, would you believe there's National Fried Chicken Day? So they got involved with that. Bit of a theme, as I say. So they had a drive-through bash, and they created a whole studio which looked like a drive-through Popeyes, and they got actors and musicians to do trivia questions and to play a few games. Wheel of Chicken, that sounds interesting, doesn't it? And also charades as well, and also did a couple of broadcasts which were strategically timed to coincide with people's lunch breaks as well. And if people played the game online or in the broadcast, as it were, they could win free boxes of boneless chicken wings. And then also, which I thought was rather clever, Popeyes actually linked in with the delivery service, and they got that food delivered to your desk within 60 minutes. They gave away, get this, 18,000 free boxes of chicken. So again, nice and interactive, a little bit of production there. So it works really, really well, actually involving the audience as well. I probably prefer the mechanic of that rather than the previous two. They said they wanted to create a personal experience and connect with fans in real time. Combined, those sessions generated 54,000 views, 3,000 impressions and 450 shares. Not huge numbers for a national chain, which is really, really well recognised. And finally, just before we talk about how a UK magazine has been using Facebook Live, let's quickly talk about GE. Used to be called General Electric, but now just GE. They're an official sponsor of the Olympic Games, which is ongoing at the moment, of course, and that they're behind all the technology and a lot of the lights and so on at the various stadia. And they decided to do a series of Facebook Lives to show people how the tech was being put in and how it was going to be used before the game started, a week ago. So they used drones, and they had a week dedicated to broadcasting from drones, and they had the hashtag Drone Week so people could follow and showcase their technology. 18-minute videos, again, nice and short, 18-minute videos, so bird's eye views of the Olympic stadiums, interviews with the technicians as well, answering questions that were posted in the comments section. And they actually showed all of this using various devices and put in some music as well. And also they explained how they then use those similar drones to inspect pipelines and railways around the world as well. So lots of different kind of mechanics and techniques for persuading people to integrate and to build up a bit of a relationship with the brand, whether it be a posh and serious one like GE, or whether it be a fast food one like McDonald's, like Dunkin' Donuts, and like Popeyes as well.
I love the GE example in particular, Peter, because a lot of people say business to business, show us how you can do this on that platform. And that's the second time. And we, as you said, we've talked about that before, that they've done Drone Week. And so last year it was all focused in terms of being on Periscope. So if you're a business to business organization, I know that you're communicating with people, but if you're inquiring and you're wondering how on earth you can make it relevant, whatever their social channel is, GE do a great job. And that's one of the reasons that I was really attracted to another story that Peter identified this week, which was actually, I don't know if it's because you read it, Peter, but it's about the magazine Glamour. And actually it was about the integration of their social media. And so Facebook Live is the platform that we talk about from live streaming perspective in the context of social media. But actually what I really liked was the fact of how they're actually using it as part of a suite of things they're doing around their social media plan. And the article is actually in Digiday, so you'll find all of the links in the show notes. And so the article starts off by talking about how Glamour grew its social following by 500,000 people in 6 months. It's a Condé Nast publication in the UK. It's a women's lifestyle publication. And in fact, they've actually been significantly growing their followers, mainly driven, interestingly, by Facebook Live and Instagram. Now, we're not going to go into Instagram in depth at all today, but it'll be interesting to see what their results are, given the fact that they've got the new feature on Instagram now that's been out a little while, a week or so, in terms of the Instagram stories, very similar to Snapchat stories. But interesting, you might want to have a look at what Glamour are doing over there. But one of the things that really caught my attention in this article was the fact that they've now got a full integration of editorial teams. So one of the things that we've talked about in the past is who takes responsibility for different parts of your online communications, online publishing. And what they do is they've actually now integrated together, and they actually have an editorial team meeting with 40 glamour staffers, as they describe it. So that means it can be connected across all the different platforms. Really interesting, turning our attention to some stats around Facebook Live. Tubular Labs shows that during the month of June, they actually had 8 million views of their Facebook Live video content, and that has grown from being 2.2 in April. It was actually 1 million in May. So they've actually been putting a lot of work into it. They're still working on a Facebook Live strategy, as they call it, and every Thursday, their beauty director actually talks over on Facebook Live doing beauty advice clinics. We see that with other organizations such as Benefit that we've mentioned in the past as well. But actually, it's a great way for them to actually deliver content that they know the audience is interested in. And they actually find that people are watching their shows for around 20 minutes or so. So again, people have got a sense in terms of how long they're going to be experiencing. And they actually found that 20 minutes for them is the sweet spot for success. And they know that expert advice in fashion and beauty goes down really well. One-to-one personal advice and guidance also goes down well in the magazine. And it's a great way to move it forward. And they're not making any money. So they are not one of the organizations that's a media partner with Facebook, that Facebook is actually rewarding them for their live streams. But they actually have found that their native campaigns have really helped them grow their Facebook. And also they also have done a number of other things over the months as well, across work that they've done on Snapchat and, as I mentioned, also Instagram. You may want to dig into the work they're doing there if you're a consumer brand, particularly in the fashion and beauty industry. But really nice to see the integration. You'll find that article in Digiday.
So we set ourselves a target of 30 minutes to bring you the latest news of the week from the world of live streaming, the tech, the tips, the tricks, and also the changes. So let's talk new app and old app now to finish the show with 8 minutes to go. Well, you've been able to do some clever things with YouTube and broadcasting live on that for a while now, but there seems to have lost their mojo, lost their way a little bit over the last few years. But obviously they've had their ass well and truly kicked, what with Meerkat and then Periscope and then Busker and all the rest of them coming along, and of course most specifically with Facebook Live. So there was a bit of a soft launch, and I suspect this has been going on around the world, but certainly there was a soft launch in London yesterday, and one of our regular viewers and regular contributors, certainly to my Twitter stream, tweeted me and said that this is what they know so far. Apparently YouTube Live is what it's going to be called. Obviously, all of this is subject to change. Apparently, it's going to be very Periscope-esque. It's within the main YouTube app, so you'll be able to use it, obviously, from your phone. So it automatically integrates to your subscribers. When you're about to go live, you can take a custom thumbnail, and obviously it all saves to your YouTube channel, so you get all the same analytics and ad rolls on the replays, and it's got various options. So you can do a show just to subscribers, or turn off the chat, or turn off HD if you've got a low signal. And obviously it's all powered, of course, by Google, which means it ain't going to go anywhere terribly fast. And one of my Twitter followers who's been sending me some more information on this says it's going to have way more power than Twitter, and they say Periscope is doomed. They say all this is what Periscope should have been doing from the get-go. And you know what, there are some thoughts there. Now, someone asked me in the week, what is best to use, Facebook Live or Periscope? And I tell you what, they didn't ask this at the time, but let's put in YouTube Live. And you know what, Krishna, I still think that actually it's horses for courses, because even though you're going to get the views, I think, on Facebook Live, you're going to very much to people who already follow you. Even though you've got big numbers, they're people who are perhaps your friends, your families, your fans. Whereas I think on Periscope/Twitter, you're more likely to having a bit of a fire hose effect. And I think you're going to get a slightly different audience again who follow you on your YouTube channel. So dare I say, I think that maybe you may have to break up your content and your broadcasting to maybe those 3 channels to get 3 different groups of people. Yes, like a Venn diagram, some of them will overlap, some of them will interconnect. Big numbers, I would suggest, on Facebook Live, and then smaller numbers on the other 2, but different kinds of viewers, I would have thought. But we'll wait and see what happens there. 5 minutes left for Krishna to talk about the death of Blab.
So yes, Blab is no more. In fact, if you go to Blab.im, where this show originally was actually broadcasting from, you won't even find a website there now. And we anticipated this would happen. Let's talk about what it means for all of us in terms of if we've been hosting shows on Blab.im. So Blab.im has been a live stream platform that we could have 4 people at any one time actually appear. We could record or not our shows. We could make them available for replay or not. We could download them. We could share them onto other platforms. We could embed them on our sites. And as at yesterday, thanks to Peter, who was on his eagle eye, and he was up very, very early in terms of European time, sent me a direct message and a link to an article that had been published by the co-founder of Blab, who's Sean Puri, I should have said, and saying that Blab has actually been closed, and basically these are the reasons, and this is what we've learned from it. Now, we did talk several months ago about the fact that they were experimenting with a new platform aimed at a youth market. The platform is Bebo. It's an app that you can download on your mobile phones. I think it's Swipe to Chill, very similar concept, but really not a platform for shows or content producers. And Sean did actually say that in a stream earlier on this year. So what do you do now? Because I'm seeing a lot of people really concerned about the fact that they were using Blab and they'd been doing things like embedding their shows. Now, I have to be very clear. I had links to some of our past episodes over on Blab, the ones that I hadn't actually repurposed onto other platforms. I also had one link on one of our pages as well for Livestream Insiders, which actually also was a replay of a show, one that I wanted people to be able to easily access. And what you'll find now is that it will be an empty page because that website isn't even there now. And so one of the things you might want to do is go back and have a look at where you've embedded. Maybe you've been using it through a third-party tool to embed, or maybe you've been embedding on your blog posts and so on. You'll need to go back out and actually switch all of those things around. But the other question people are saying is like, well, how do I get access to my live streams? And so I haven't tested today, but I did test yesterday, because if you were live streaming, you would have got a notification back from Blab to say, here's your replay, and you could download the audio and the video. And so what you might want to do is actually test now to actually go back through your old archive of emails, go back to those shows and see if you can download. So say, I did test in the last 24 hours. I haven't tested it today, so I can't guarantee it will be there forever. But guess what? It will not be the first. It is not the first platform to actually end in social media. It's been a while since something has been so abruptly ended with no notification to any of their users. So I haven't had an email. Peter, I don't think you've had an email from them to say, you know, we've actually taken it down. We're all down to actually what we see. There's nothing when I looked yesterday on their Twitter account. There was nothing on their co-founder's Twitter account about it. It was just linked as an article from the Blab website, which is no more, to an article on Sean Puri's Medium post. I've actually written about it in terms of it. I think it's really disappointing in terms of that they didn't give notice, but it's just a strong reminder, isn't it, Peter, that we need to think very carefully about what platforms we rely upon and the platforms that we actually choose to embed. And if I can say this here between us, I actually do not embed content if I live stream on Periscope. I know it's available. We can embed that now on our sites. I'm not doing that. I don't plan to do it. It's a nice feature. But if I had done that, how many shows did you say we're on to now? I would have been busy for the next several weeks. If I'd have been writing blog posts around all of those, And I don't know about you, Peter, I don't have that amount of time to go back and re-edit content because platforms disappear. So always have a backup, have a hard copy, have a copy on other platforms. Just a healthy warning to all of us.
Okay, that's about it. Our time is nearly up and gone. Psst, bit like Blabs. So join us next week at the same time for more up-to-date news from Livestream Insiders.
Remember, you can find all the links to our previous episodes at livestreaminsiders.com. Come on over to facebook.com/livestreaminsiders if you want to see where the replays are for the shows that we're hosting here at this point in time. And also you'll find us on Twitter. We'd love to know your stories in terms of your success stories or questions or challenges around using live video platforms. Lots more news in the next week's show. Make sure you subscribe now to make sure you get an email notification. Thanks again for joining us.